Welcome to your 12-minute manager toolkit. Today, we're talking about imposter syndrome. We're not saying it's the worst thing in the world. We're not saying it's a good thing. What we're saying is it's a perfectly reasonable response that you need to work with and not blame yourself for. Curious? Let's talk about it. Let's go. Two nights ago, I was at dinner with a couple of friends, and one of them, who's a partner in her GP practice, was describing going on a leadership course. And she talked about having imposter syndrome on this course. So I thought, okay, well, this is probably quite relevant. Let me talk about imposter syndrome. And my advice to keep it really simple is don't try and get rid of it. So let's break that down. One of the things I find myself talking about a lot in this space is conflict. And that we're not talking about conflict today, but this is something that I find myself at odds with other people because their implicit concept is that conflict is a disease and it is an external disease. My argument is it's more analogous to an internal disease because it derives from the very nature of the people involved. Two humans will have different priorities. The only way that you don't get conflict between more than one human is to not have more than one human. It's just comes with the territory. Today, when we talk about imposter syndrome, I'm going to take that one step even further. The mindset that I tend to see is that it is a disease. It's a failing. It's a flaw. It's an intrinsic disease that I shouldn't be suffering from. And that's just another thing I'm getting wrong. I listen to people talk about their imposter syndrome, and I'm not saying that they're wrong for thinking that, but it just seemed to form another, this is something else that I'm getting wrong. I'm not getting my job right, and I'm also got imposter syndrome about doing the job. That's just piling cream on top of the problem that I already have, feeling bad about feeling bad. You see where I'm going? It's a multiplier. Here's my suggestion. Let me talk about something that I found more complex, more useful as something to help you navigate your way through this. And this is an old colleague of mine, Daniel, explained this to me years ago. He said, imagine this. Imagine a thought bubble behind everybody's head that says, I hope they don't find out that I don't know what I'm doing. The idea or the fear or the paranoia that someone might look at us one day and go, what are you talking about? Why on earth did you think that? Do you know what you're doing? That paranoia is within all of us. That fear that one day we're going to get caught out faking it is buried in there somewhere. This is where the metaphor gets more interesting and more useful. Imagine that thought bubble gets smaller over time but never goes away. Someone who's been doing the job 10, 20, 30, however many years, that thought bubble is tiny, and their capacity to turn around to say, no, I know what I'm doing, is much higher. But it's not there. It's still there. Medical practitioner with 30 years of experience still has an apprehension that they've missed something, that something came out that they did not pay attention. They dozed off in a lecture, they lost attention at a conference, and they missed something really critical. Everybody has that paranoia, that fear, that worry that they may not necessarily have got something right, that they may not be the total package. So let's talk about the benefits of imposter syndrome. If imposter syndrome is, to give a very simple definition, an unreasonable feeling that you are not truly entitled to be there, that you feel out of place, that you feel like an actor amongst some genuine and legitimate people, that it makes you question your legitimacy to be there in the first place, there are some positives to that. To keep it simple, you're more likely to be prepared. You're more likely to be diligent. You're more likely to check. You're more likely to follow up. You're less likely to be overconfident. You're more likely to be humble. You will have greater empathy for other people who are also struggling. And overall, your insecurity will drive you to make sure to cover up that sense of insecurity with diligence and effort. None of these things are bad things, are they? I'm sure the biggest concern that you've come across in your professional life is the person who thinks they know what they're doing, the overly confident, the complacent, the junior staff or medical student who thinks, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing, it's fine, and that's not the case. They are the most dangerous people around. If feeling like an imposter drives us to be more careful, that's not exactly a bad thing. Now, there are some real negatives to imposter syndrome. This ill-placed perspective that you are not legitimate in where you are. This unreasonable perception of illegitimacy when in fact you are legitimate. The biggest negative that we can see is it creates self-doubt to the point where it compromises effectiveness. The person who knows what they are doing or knows what is the right thing to do, but is hesitant to speak up because of an unreasonable undervaluing of their capacity. To give you a different example, if you've ever been to pub quiz, this happens all the time. Every team, there is a team member or two who are more likely to give the answers than everybody else. They're more confident. They can make educated guesses when they don't know. They are the strongest and the loudest voices. How often does it happen that they talked too much and someone who actually knew the answer or had a pretty good idea didn't speak up, didn't speak confidently to say, no, I know what the capital of ... is. I'm pretty sure it's such and such. Instead of going with actual knowledge, we ended up going with an educated guess because one person's confidence in their knowledge was too low and someone's confidence in their capacity to guess was too high. It can also get to the point where people who are capable, who are on track, either quit very early on or they quit halfway through their learning journey. And I go back to the thought bubble idea. Everybody has a big thought bubble at the beginning, and everybody deserves to have a big thought bubble at the beginning, because people, the first day you do your job, you don't really know all the things that you need to know. That bubble gets smaller. The risk is that people have expectations that it should get smaller quicker, and they quit or they give up because that journey is not going as smoothly as they would like. So, what are the takeaways for imposter syndrome? Don't kick your fear of being wrong to touch automatically. Don't put away your sense of insecurity and your lack of confidence because it's probably well-founded. Everybody is on a journey. No one is perfect. There's nothing wrong with feeling less than certain that you are on top of everything, so long as that doesn't override your willingness and your courage to do the right thing, and it doesn't cause you to give up because you have unrealistic expectations about how much you should have grown by now. In short, we all live with imposter syndrome. It's just a question of perception, and it's just a question of confidence. But don't feel that you should be 100% confident all the time, because that's even worse. That's truly dangerous. Thank you for listening. I've always found imposter syndrome really interesting because it's both true, but on the other hand, not a helpful label. So how can we realize what is going on, but on the other hand, realize it's normal and that there's pros and that there's cons to it, and we should lean into the pros and manage the cons? If you think that we can help you more, if you think that we can be of more value, have a look at our website, Managingmedical.nz. Focused on healthcare, but also good for anybody else who's in that professional services space. Alternatively, for the more industrial, have a look at our Managingtradies.nz. Alternatively, if you want more podcast options, maybe have a look at my other podcast, your 12-Minute HR Lesson, which is for HR people, but it's all about the big picture, deep-seated, philosophical, psychological issues that we have to deal with when managing people. You'll probably find it really interesting. But if not, not a problem. We'll catch you next time.